So the Indiana Jones trailer has just dropped. We've got information on another shadow drop coming from the Crash universe onto Game Pass. We've got a bunch of other stuff as well. More free games that you can claim to own on Xbox right now. And of course, some PlayStation news from PS5 Pro all the way to the 30th anniversary. So with that said, it's time for the drop. So as you can see here, Xbox Game Pass says at Crash Bandicoot, hey, can we add another one of your games? Essentially talking about adding a Crash Bandicoot game to Game Pass. Crash Bandicoot says check your email. Now, Kazama here, it says nitro fueled, please. Now, everyone's kind of hoping there's going to be more. Let's give Crash Bandicoot a follow. But as you can see here, in a comical reply, it's a yes. Now, what game it is unknown. It could be nitro fueled. It could be something else. But expect this drop to happen over the next week. So there is more Game Pass goodness coming to you for those that are subscribed to Game Pass. I suspect this is going to go straight into standard as well. So great news. Indiana Jones has come out with their launch trailer and it does look amazingly good. Now, as a super indie fan, I love Indiana Jones. I've loved all their movies, even the crappy ones. I'm just that much into Indiana Jones. I'm super looking forward to this. I didn't get a review code. No, this isn't no soul. I didn't get a review code, so that's fine. I'm not entitled to a review code, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be paying for early access either. I just don't feel like, when it comes to early access, I feel a bit indifferent because it feels a bit cheeky charging people extra, but I guess that's their way of trying to double up and make some more revenue as games are hitting Game Pass day one. Those that want to play it early, so who knows, I might actually do it. I'll see at the end, but it is what it is. I know there's that big debate going on right now with, is it releasing on the 6th or the 9th? And everyone is saying, well, no, it's the 9th, but realistically, the release date for Indiana Jones is the 6th, because that is when the game is first playable publicly, if you're willing to pay for the early access. And that's my gripe with it, because it does go against the whole play it day and date on Game Pass, because you're no longer playing it day and date as part of your subscription. You are playing it 3 days later than everyone else. So I think that's a bit of a gray area. I know people are going to say early access is different. It really isn't. And in my eyes, if they say that you're going to play it day and date, it should be the same day as everyone else that can actively play it day one. And that is the 6th. So this should be really accessible to Game Pass Ultimate users on the 6th. And it's not, you have to pay extra. It is what it is. But I'm super looking forward to it. It looks great, and the trailer has definitely got me hyped. This is the game I've been looking forward to all year, so I really, really hope that this is going to knock it out of the park and be that game to sweeten the deal towards the end of the year. Good luck, Indy. Make it happen. So, Crackdown 1 and 2 are currently free on Xbox. Now, I've known about this for quite some time. I've mentioned it before, but I think maybe they were taken off being free and they've been brought back again. I don't really know, because I mentioned this like really early this year, or maybe towards the tail end of last year. But they were free then as well, but both are now free, playable on the Xbox Series X and S. You can get them. I'm going to have this link in the description below. This is to the US stores, but when you actually, as you can see here, xbox.com games, but when you actually load up the page, it should auto direct you to your region, and if it doesn't, just change the prefix from US to your region. If you're in the UK, change it to GB and you will be fine, and you can just click to buy the game for free. 2 games, free, why not add them to your collection? So it looks like the Visions of Mana director Ryosuke Yoshida leaves NetEase's own studio and joins Square Enix. Now, obviously, the whole pretty much Visions of Mana studio was shut down pretty much the same day the game released. And, they made no hesitation in shutting the studio down. It was pretty harsh. the way it all happened. The game is actually really, really good, but I think that, this is a good move from Ryusuke, and he's finally landed at a place where he can feel at home. He did originally leave Capcom after 13 years, joining NetEase in 2020, but I think, Square Enix is the right place for him. The game is really good, worth your time, and if you haven't checked it out yet, you absolutely should. And yes, before you chime in, I did get the game. It's not on Game Pass, so it's definitely worth your time. But I'm really happy for Yosuke Yoshida landing at a place that will appreciate his talents. Chernobyl. Now, this has been a game. The original was actually, it was a phenomenal game. I really enjoyed it. They're releasing a second one. They kind of released a big trailer and wanted feedback from the community. They got the feedback from the community, and there was a lot of changes that they wanted. Some of them are big changes. So they're reaching out, from what I can understand, to a Kickstarter. I'll have a link to this thread in the description below. If you're interested, you can click on the notify me. It's a really good game, and definitely, they are indie developers. So if you want to support them, I'll have the link in the description below so you can, and hopefully they can get this game out soon, because I'm personally looking forward to it, and hopefully I can, drop a few bobs their way as well to support their cause. PlayStation released this awesome trailer of 30 years, and it's pretty much a homage to the 30 years that they actually have, and it's really, really cool. And, PlayStation has been around, since the Sega Saturn days, and, though it came about as an accident, Nintendo will be kicking themselves to this day because of that accident, after they chose to embarrass Sony in front of everyone and go with Philips drives instead of the Sony drive. And at that point, that was the pivotal moment where Sony decided that they were going to show Nintendo and make a console of their own, and then went and bought 40% of the gaming industry with Psygnosis to try and bolster their power and become a powerhouse. And honestly, throughout the generations, they have done really, really well. But this is kind of like a homage video that is basically to their fans for 30 years of PlayStation. And I think it's a very, very well done video. And if you want to check it out, again, I'll have a link to it in the description below. But it's pretty much like the one where Microsoft made for ABK, welcoming them, just showing the cool games. This is really, really good, cool. And it's nice that these companies do stuff like this, just to pay tribute to their fans and their community. Now we come to the PS5 Pro, and this doesn't seem to be going well. As you can see, Pandora is another PS5 Pro patch that arguably looks worse than the standard PS5 version, and Digital Foundry at the moment is on a rampage in absolutely slaughtering them. You can see here, Avatar looks much worse on the PS5 Pro with PSSR than base PS5. It runs 720p on PS5 Pro, and not locked 60 FPS. It is just a couple frames better than the base PS5. Not great. Now, from my understanding, games that generally have a higher base resolution, the PSSR does a much better job in providing you with a better quality. Stellar Blade is one of them. GT7 is another. Now, if you take a lower resolution, unlike DLSS 3.5, which handles it really well, PSSR simply cannot. It's in its infancy, and at the moment, it is pretty much, honestly, it's exactly how I said. The PS5 Pro is basically a beta tester's console until they release a PS6, where it will be nurtured and in a much better place. You're basically a beta tester if you have one, like myself. If the PSSR just does not handle low resolutions well, at least for the time being. Maybe it will in the future, but anyone telling you, oh, it's in its infancy, it's gonna get better, well, maybe they should have sold you the console at half the price and then charged you the other half when it actually got better. The problem you're having right now is that games generally are running worse, and there's no way to fix it. There's no option to go back to the base PS5 mode, which is silly because that configuration should have just been there and not removed. There's no reason to not have it there. But apparently when they're making it for the, if the game detects that you've got a PS5 Pro, it just disables the base version of the game. And in a lot of cases now, like Star Wars Jedi, the game just runs better on the base console than it does on the Pro. Meaning you've paid £700 for a console and you're actually getting a worse experience than you would do. Even GT7 at 8K, the prophesized 8K, actually runs worse because it's been upscaled from 4K to 8K. And if I don't need to tell you how many times more that actually is, because it's crazy. Although some people will claim it's not that big of a jump, it is a huge leap. And you're getting flickering all over the lights. And as you can see from the left screen, the PSSR is enabled. On the right, it's not. If we play this video, you can see the lights. It's all flickering, shimmering. You don't get that stableness on the base PS5 with the PSSR disabled. You just get an overall better picture, even on games like GT7 on the base PS5. Now, clearly something is wrong here. When the Series S is having problems, it's a hardware issue. Now you've got the fanboys saying it's a dev issue and not a hardware issue. Clearly, PSSR is not doing what it's intended to do. Maybe it just doesn't have the data. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it is a hardware issue and not a software issue. But again, this only happens when you're upscaling it at a much higher resolution and not at the lower end. Once it gets to the lower end of like 720p, sub 1080p especially, basically, that's when you're starting to have issues with the games. And if you notice all the games that are out there that the PS5 Pro is trying to make look better, it's always in the ones that are performing sub 1080p where the problems are really occurring. The ones like The Last of Us, Stellar Blade, that are already playing at a much higher resolution, those are not actually doing, those aren't actually having any problems because they've already got a pretty decent base resolution to work with to upscale from. So again, PSSR is light years away from the quality of DLSS 3.5, and in all honesty, based on what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, and just the articles that people are writing, knowledgeable or not, good or bad, I don't know. Just going by the information I'm reading, once you start to get to those sub 1080p levels, it's not even outperforming FSR 3, which is kind of strange when you think about it, right? But as you can see here, with PSSR enabled, PSSR disabled, they've disabled, when you disable ray tracing, as you can see here, the base PS5 is just outperforming PSSR enabled when ray tracing is off. Obviously, when ray tracing is on, it's going to hurt the base PS5 more, but that doesn't really help the PSSR enabled mode either, because it creates more shimmering and more artifacting. Well, it's not really artifacting, but it is problems, and overall they have a lot of it. But hey, I guess people are still happy with their purchase, and that is great. But questions should be asked from Sony, not from the developers, because even Silent Hill 2 has had to revert a save file, their fix with PSSR by just disabling PSSR entirely and bringing it back down to the base version with PSSR disabled, because PSSR is what's causing the problem. And don't forget, PSSR is supposed to be this thing that's always on and supports all games. So in actual fact, it is a hardware issue, not a dev issue. Devs may have a bit to play with this, just like they did with the Series S, but ultimately it's a hardware issue, just like the Series S. So, it's weird. The tables turned very quickly with the ponies. But anyway, that's the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that discussion, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell to stay up to date with all content I release, and I will see you in the next one. As always, remain legend.